Hey guys, it's Maladaptive, coming at you with another Speedpaint for the soul. Today I will be coloring in a picture of the character Pharius, a player character from a DnD campaign which I am a part of. You will notice that DnD characters will be a common theme amongst this channel. I can explain, I'm kind of obsessed. Who is this character? What is he about? Well, random viewer, let's get into that. Pharius, aka Fairy by those who are close to him, is a drow who escaped the Underdark after some unfortunate circumstances. He was raised in the Underdark and was a product of his drow upbringing. As such, it's sort of par the course that he's done some morally reprehensible things, and these things he's never had to question. Even after coming to the surface, he's kept some of that drow mindset with him, which creates a lot of culture shock now that he knows that the things that he always assumed to be normal kind of piss people off. Because of this, he's having some difficulty adapting to the surface, which is a land by all means that rejects him for who he is. But the Underdark rejects him for who he is as well. He's kind of a man stuck without anywhere to go. And therefore, the only place he can stay is on the surface. At least until he gets dragged back down under. In the meantime, on the surface, he's beginning to discover new things about himself. He's willing to put his life on the line for others, with very little in return. He's realizing that maybe he has some selflessness to him. This creates a lot of confusion, being kind on the surface, yet having to quarrel with his nefarious past. It's a struggle between nature and nurture, where he was nurtured into being a drow, an evil being who has little regard or care for the lives of others, but his true nature is coming out where he might actually be a genuinely good person deep down. This deep, dark kindness inside him actually makes him frustrated with himself because he has been raised to think that he needs to look out for himself, and if he doesn't, people will use it against him. So every time he does something that conflicts with his nurture, he's just angry and believes he's getting soft and doesn't understand why he wants to do these things. Pharius doesn't want to die. He only very recently saved himself, and that to him is a temporary thing until he has to keep fighting for his life again. He expects his past to kill him eventually no matter what he does. He expects that he can't run away. So whenever he does something that puts what little time he has left at risk, it is not in his best interest. Despite this, he keeps risking his life anyways to help those that he cares for. It's a new thing for him, and he doesn't want to lose it. Though he believes that one day he'll have to return to the Underdark, likely by force, there are plenty of things on the surface that he absolutely adores. Pharius is a Gloomstalker ranger with a few other things he multi-classed into. Anyways, he has a love and affinity for plants, for animals, for wildlife. He's collected multiple pets, as well as a white-haired anime BF, and is employed under the mysterious rogue Serenity, who is the de facto leader of the city of Gilvermore, a city that fell from power after multiple disasters. This employment fits him well. It requires him to do morally ambiguous good, and Pharius himself is very proud of the work he's able to accomplish. Unfortunately for him, he has his fair share of failures under his belt. I think it was only his second session where he got involved in an arc that eventually amounted to a very dramatic lovers' quarrel. In this session, he had a pretty decent sized part in blowing up a portion of Gilvermore. An event that was interesting for me as a player because I had to grapple between his feelings of it's not a big deal, as well as my own feelings of this is a really big deal. But because of this mistake, we had a ticking time bomb sitting literally beneath the character's feet, and we still had a mission to do. We had to save a young child from a group of hags who served as some of the BBEGs for the Ark, and do so before the flames engulfed us. And oh boy, the party was a circus. After many mistakes and scrambling around, the DM started to realize this might become a TPK. So our merciful DM pulled a quite literal Deus Ex Machina. She explained how there was a full moon outside, and then she pulled me as well as another person playing a drow outside of the room to speak with us. Once outside, she explained to us what was basically a divine intervention performed by the good drow goddess Elistrai. the goddess asked if we needed help with our situation, and of course both of the drow said yes, and she lended her aid in a very unique way. This way was having the Aarakocra NPC turn into a dragon and fly us all away from the city right before it burst into flames. Knowing that he had caused this tragedy, as well as the fact that he wasn't really worthy of forgiveness, Pharius ended up growing a fond appreciation of the goddess. He wasn't a very actively religious drow after he had left the Underdark. Before, he had worshipped Loth, believing that his life belonged to Loth and knowing nothing else, so this was kind of a changing moment for him. Slowly, over the course of his story, he begins to become more and more serious about his worship with her. But funnily enough, he doesn't actually believe he's going to an afterlife with her. It's purely out of respect, not a need to have a safe place to go after you die. Because he left Loth, as well as being a drow and not being a part of the elven reincarnation cycle, he thinks that once he dies, he's just gonna go poof, disappear, into the ultimate form of darkness for this Gloomstalker. He's in for a pretty big shock once he finally kicks the bucket. This big explanation of his relationship with Elistrai is relevant to the video though. You see, whenever Elistrai is around and the moon is out, Drow's hair tend to glow in the moonlight. Because of that, I drew his hair glowing in this photo as kind of a callback to her. It's kind of inconvenient though, because as a Gloomstalker, he does need complete darkness in order to have his invisibility feature, so if she's ever around, she's blowing his cover. That's fine though, because ever since Tasha's came out, and we had the option to add the Twilight Cleric subclass, I've been pretty satisfied with the things he's gotten. I was always pretty proud of how stupidly far his dark vision goes because of being a drow and having the superior dark vision going to 120 feet, plus the Gloomstalkers added 30 feet, plus the Goggles of the Night that I gave him to put 60 more feet on that. But once the Twilight Cleric came out and you got dark vision up to 300 feet, he now has dark vision that goes to 390 feet. If you're going to min-max, make sure it's very stupidly situational. Pharius's build is so situational that he gets his full capacity in the dark, but if you shine sunlight on him, all of it goes away. He goes from an invisible sneaking archer with triple advantage to a blind, bubbling buffoon who can't see 5 feet in front of him without crying. You could probably tell that I'm having a lot of fun with him. It's nice to have a character with a very specific shtick that they follow to, such as Pharius is a live in the darkness. My intentions behind making him were actually to make a character who has all of the stereotypes that you would think of an edgy D&D character, such as being a sneaky dark elf who wears all black and dons a mask and hides his face. And then to completely turn that stereotype around on its face and have a character who is actually kind of a massive dork. Everything that makes him edgy in some people's eyes are circumstantial, and they don't actually go into making him an edgy character. He's not some dark, brooding guy who is a loner, stands in the back and doesn't like talking to people. He's a guy with a negative charisma who's in a completely new environment where he doesn't understand anything culturally. He's quiet and he stands to the back and watches because he's scared that he's going to die. He wears a mask to hide his identity because there's a woman out there who thinks he'd make a great consort. He's a dark elf because, well, he was born a dark elf. He may dwell in the darkness, but in his heart he has a huge spot for animals. He's constantly cracking stupid jokes. He'd jump out of his skin if you put a cucumber on the ground next to him. He acts completely on impulse even whenever he knows that the action he's about to do is more detrimental to him than good. And he is prone to histrionic fits of melodrama. I don't think he's the stereotypically edgy guy despite having all the characteristics that go into it. All of this is to say that I love my soft dark elf ranger boy, and I hope that you guys enjoyed learning about him. I also hope that you enjoyed watching me create this photo of him, and I'll see you next time.